sobre imigração, sobre visto americano, Visa. Murtaz está na nossa tela do YouTube. Murtaz, vê se você consegue entrar. See if you can come into the Instagram. If you see, you can invite yourself on Instagram. Let me see if I can invite you. I don't know if I can invite you. Yes, I can invite you. Let me see. Murtaz. Yes. Let me see. Yes. Just ask to participate. And then I can accept you.
Oops. I've requested.
It should show you that. Yes. Yes. I got you.
All right. Awesome.
Now,
Showing me.
let me see if you come in. No, you did not come in yet, but I think it's going to come in. Yes, now we are.
Perfect.
Okay, so now we are in both systems. We are in Instagram and YouTube, okay? So I have YouTube over there. I have Instagram over here. So people, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to transmit this in English because Murtaz is in the US. He speaks English. He is a lawyer specialized in visa. He has a 99% success rate in getting visas for everybody. Então, para o pessoal que está aqui em português, eu vou de vez em quando parar e traduzir um pouco, tá? O Murtaz é advogado lá em Chicago, ele fala português. Ele foi casado com uma brasileira e ele fala português. Mas o português dele não é tão corrente, então ele prefere que a gente converse em inglês para a gente poder falar um pouco melhor, tá? It's okay here. I'm seeing you. I'm hearing you. Okay. Everything's okay.
Just want to make sure that everything's on the same.
Yeah, everything's working. Então, nós vamos falar um pouquinho em inglês, um pouquinho em português. Eu peço que o pessoal que tiver dúvidas, que a gente está falando em inglês, qualquer coisa, mete aí, fala, interrompe a gente aí no chat, seja no YouTube, seja aqui no Instagram, e pergunta o que não está entendendo, o que não está falando. A gente vai tentar falar um pouco mais devagar para o pessoal que não é fluente em inglês também entender, tá? You got it?
I'm good. Let's do it.
Okay. I'm saying that let's try to speak a little slower so people can understand a little better our English, okay?
When we get to the question and answer period, I can also answer questions in Portuguese if needed.
And I'm going to say something. Pessoal que não estiver entendendo o inglês, no YouTube, na minha live, vai ficar gravada no meu canal. E lá você pode traduzir. Então, lá você vai lá e bota legenda em português e você consegue traduzir. Tanto o áudio como a legenda você consegue traduzir para português. You got it? Because in YouTube, you can translate the audio and you can have a closed caption in Portuguese too. So if somebody doesn't understand what you're saying, you can just go over there. But if you have questions, let us know. Put the questions on YouTube or Instagram, and we can answer all your questions. And we already have a set of questions, right, Murtaz? Your people got questions.
There's some questions that people have asked that they would like to have addressed on this.
Okay.
Because, the odds of having two professionals of our type working together on this, all of this kind of plays together. And so,
try lowering the audio on your phone. Listen on the computer.
All right.
It's gonna be better, right? Just lower the audio on your phone. On your phone. Just enough.
Better.
Yeah.
Okay. So like I said, we have people that need help on both sides of this. This is not an individualized type of situation. We need to have tax strategy and we need to have immigration strategy working together and in unison. Otherwise, you're going to have errors along the way, and you're going to create complications for yourself. You don't want to spend too much money on tax, but you also have to be in the country in order for that to be an issue. So, these things kind of work together. And so, if we can give the people the right information so they can make educated decisions and plan what they need to for their family from both sides, we can give them a better option as they come to the U.S.
That's true. That's true. And you were saying something about the age. What does it mean? So a lot of people look for your work when their kids are already too old for them to bring the kids to the US. Is that true?
Yeah. So look, in order for certain applications, especially on the work side, if you would like to have all of your children included in the application, we have to get the application in and likely approved before they turn 21. So if you come to us, when your child is 20 years and 9 months old, and it's a 2-year application process, it doesn't work that way. I mean, planning ahead, again, both on the financial side and then also on the immigration side, it makes sense. Talk to a qualified professional for both, because that will help you eliminate potential risks and errors as you try to create a better future for your family.
Got you. That's very important because people don't prepare. People I want to go tomorrow,
Right.
right? And that's impossible.
No, I mean, not necessarily. Look, there's options always on a temporary visa side. However, if you want to set up your life, long term to live and work here and get permanent residency, you want to plan this out. If it was easy to do and it was an instant thing, everyone would do it. But
Can somebody start with a temporary visa that's faster and then switch for a more permanent thing after that?
we have people do that all the time. There are professionals come over as intercompany transfers. There's exceptional ability. There's athletes that come, students. Some people come as tourists, and then while they're here, they make a decision that, hey, I want to also stay here because I like the environment. There's opportunities, so on and so forth. And they either get sponsored, or they do like EB2 NIW or an EB1A, or like you and I were talking the other day about the E2 investor visa. That's an option, and that really depends on the type of passport you have as well. So that's another step in the planning, where if you would like to come in as an investor, then hey, you have the option to go to Portuguese or Italian passport, etc. You got to plan that out, and I've dealt with the Italian passport, and that takes some time. So plan it out. Talk to someone as soon as you can. Look, even if you're not going to do it right away, find out what your options are. Find out what the best strategies are for you and your family, so that one, you can plan effectively, but two, if you're going to execute, you need to know years ahead of time kind of what your options are. Look, have we done people where we get them in right before their kid turns 21? Yes. But would I recommend that? No. If your kid's 14 or 15 or 5, think about it. I mean, for a lot of highly, highly qualified Brazilian professionals, and I will say this, I've been doing this a long time. The Brazilian market is probably one of the best talent markets that I've ever seen in the world. The salaries are about 20 to 30% of what they are in the US for the same work. And the level of professional is just outstanding. We bring in some of the best civil engineers in the world, some of the best supply chains and logistics. Technology, especially on the cybersecurity side, is just out of this world coming out of Brazil. I mean, some of the financial people are amazing. Marketing people are amazing. We have just all kinds of entrepreneurs that we work with, professional athletes. So, I mean, the talent pool is there. And the opportunities for the right type of visa are there as well. But you have to know which you qualify for, what the process is, and make sure that your case is built appropriately and exceptionally, because you're not the only one applying. There's thousands of applications coming in. You need your application to stand out. You need to know that yours is going to be seen as better than the other people that are applying. And at the same time, you need to maintain a level of consistency, because if you have conflicting data on different applications, I'm saying even a tourist application and then a green card application, they're going to know. And if you have conflicting information, that's going to raise questions. You don't want to raise questions. You want to be consistent. You want to be honest, and you want to be accurate in everything. And look, some of this stuff is complex. Some of the government forms, they're not the most simplified things in the world. But also, building the actual case and like writing the arguments and knowing the evidentiary standards, this matters. And if you get it wrong, you're going to create more cost, more headache, and it's going to be longer before you get to the U.S. I will say this: if you are thinking about this, they should talk to you right away, because the tax planning and the financial planning side of it is a big piece, and you don't want to get 1 month away, just like with the children, and then say, hey, I need to do this within a month, because some of the stuff you do is complicated. It takes time to set up the right way. So they need to talk to a qualified financial expert, tax expert prior to being ready to come here. So I would recommend they talk to you and they talk to us, and simultaneously we can build an effective strategy together.
I'm gonna say something em português, ok? Pessoal, quem estiver ouvindo com muito eco aqui no Instagram, vai para o YouTube, que o YouTube tem muito menos barulho, tá? Tá bem melhor lá, tá? No YouTube, a gente está transmitindo ao mesmo tempo no YouTube, por isso que está dando eco, porque está em 2 dispositivos simultâneos, tá? Agora, eu quero esclarecer algumas coisas. A dona Ruth, é minha conhecida já de longo prazo aqui no meu canal, e ela está perguntando quais os investimentos que um não residente, quando se torna residente, vai ter taxas maiores ou melhores. Eu vou fazer uma live aqui dentro de 2 semanas, está marcado para a partir de acho que dia 10 ou 12 de novembro, com o Rafael Nani. O Rafael é um analista de investimento lá nos Estados Unidos, certificado lá nos Estados Unidos, e ele vai falar de investimentos, dona Ruth. Se a senhora quiser trazer essa pergunta daqui a 2 semanas, aí o Rafael responde, ele é especialista em investimentos, tá? E ele sabe tudo isso aí, o que é melhor de fazer, quando é que os impostos são melhores ou piores, e aí o Rafael pode te ajudar. Com relação ao visto que o Murtaz está falando aqui, o que ele começou explicando, pessoal, é que tem muita gente que procura ele quando ele já quer ir embora para os Estados Unidos, quer tirar um visto, mas tem certos vistos para você levar o filho. A data limite é filho completar 21 anos. Se o filho já está com 20, às vezes até com 19, se o prazo do visto demora mais de 2 anos, quando o visto for sair, ele já tem 21, ele não vai poder te acompanhar. O visto só vale para dependentes até 21 anos, na sua maioria dos casos, tá? Tem exceções, mas na maioria dos casos é essa. Então, você vai ter um problema quando seu visto sair, se o seu filho tiver mais de 21 anos na hora que o visto sair. Não é na hora que você aplica, é na hora que o visto sai. E aí, seu filho não vai receber um green card para ir para lá, não vai receber uma autorização para ir para lá, e você vai ter um problema. Outra coisa que o Murtaz estava falando é que você tem que tomar cuidado na hora de fazer a aplicação para fazer todo o processo corretamente. O processo precisa ser feito de uma forma que ele traga consistência. Não pode haver falhas na consistência do processo. E o Murtaz, ele é especialista exatamente nessa análise. O que faz com que ele tenha essa taxa de 99% de aprovação dos processos que ele entra é porque ele exige que o processo, ele constrói um processo que tem consistência. Se não tiver consistência, ele não faz o processo. Is that right? The process from the beginning to the end, you need to be consistent. All the information has to check, right?
And look, and there's all kinds of different applications, all kinds of different paths. Look, if you really want to do this, send us your CV or talk to us. That way we can at least define the right strategy for you, because a lot of times people don't even know what strategy is available for them. But to do it the right way, you want to, one, be consistent. If you're saying something in your legal argument and there's something different in your evidence behind it, that's going to create questions. Like, why is there that discrepancy? The other side of it is, look, which case or which type of case you choose to apply for, it really depends on your current situation, your education, your experience. We need to do an analysis of your background and kind of what your goals and objectives are, because if we can do that, one, we can probably get you here faster and with a lower risk strategy, and you may develop on your own, but also options are available. And unless you do this every day, you're not going to know every visa type and kind of how to analyze and select the right choice for a given candidate. This is not a process where you just get lucky. You have to do the work. You have to have a concise strategy that's well executed on the back end after you decided what it is. And when you ultimately submit your case, and again, whether it's a family case, EB1A, NIW, EB3, whatever it is, for a green card, you still have to execute. Execution means consistency. Execution means excellence throughout the entire process and every step of the process.
And which are the best visa options for a Brazilian that wants to immigrate to the US?
Well, again, it depends really on your set of circumstances. Right now, we see a lot of EB2 NIW. We see a lot of EB1A. There's EB3, which is a sponsored visa, but you need to have an employer in the US. And then, some Brazilians, they have American kids, like kids that are American citizens. And as they turn 21, they can apply for that. Some Brazilians get married to Americans and they can apply in that manner. There's a lot of different options. I mean, we've done religious visas for like ministers and priests in the past. There's options. It's just we need to understand your circumstances. So, the best choice you can do is go on our website, upload your CV, and let us have a conversation about it. My team and I will go through your CV. We'll understand from a professional perspective what your options are, and then also we'll talk to you from a family perspective. You have relatives in the U.S. like parents, children, siblings. I don't necessarily recommend because it takes a long time, but it is an option for people who maybe who are 21 and one of their siblings is 21. They're like 5 years old, but that's an option because they can get the green card by the time they're 21. But there's a bunch of different options that are available. We just have to do a personal analysis, and that's why my team and I, we sit down every morning, we go through the CVs, to find out exactly which ones are qualified, which ones aren't. And the problem with our industry is that a lot of people just tell you what you want to hear. Oh yeah, we can do this case, no problem. But that's not the way that this needs to be done. There needs to be a level of ethics and integrity with this, where if you know up front that based on the CV analysis, there's no chance to win the case, you can't take that case. You have to be honest with people. You have to tell them, look, this is not going to work for you. We'll try to help you find other options, but we're not going to just sign a contract to sign a contract. The reason our win rate is where it's at is because I'm selective. I'm going to take the cases that have the high enough win probability for us to take, where I can feel good that when we send it in, that we're going to win the case. Every case that we send out, I think we should win easily. Now, there's some issues with the government, obviously, that we don't always have control over, and so that way I won't make any guarantees. But I can promise you that all of our clients who have worked with us, and if you ask any of them, the work was done exceptionally. Extraneous circumstances that we can't control, we can't control. But what we can control, we do control, and we're going to do it exceptionally every time. And I know when we were talking earlier, you have that same mentality in the way you do things, the way you treat your clients. You want to make sure you put them in a better position to have a good life, and a safe, secure financial future. And that safe, secure financial future and the immigration side of it, they go hand in hand.
Murtaz, let's try something. Can you try to mute your computer?
Yeah. Are we getting feedback?
Yes.
Let me try this.
Mute your computer, and then let's keep the audio from the phone. See if it gets better.
Is that better?
I think so. Let's try. Pessoal. No, I think that works. Now it's worse.
Worse?
Yeah, a lot louder. Yeah, so
we're on two different systems. So
yeah,
microphones running simultaneously.
Yeah. And then put it back how it was before, because now it's very, very bad. Yeah. I can hear myself when I speak, but now it's better. I think now it's better. Can you speak?
Is that better?
A lot better. A lot better.
No, I had to just turn your volume down a little bit.
Yeah, it's not perfect, but it's a lot better. Okay. Let's try this. Pessoal, I'm gonna say something in português, ok? Pessoal, tá com eco porque a gente tá em 2 dispositivos e a gente não conseguiu acertar o problema do eco aqui, tá? Vamos ver se melhorou, que ele deu uma baixada no volume, vamos ver se melhora. Mas a ideia aqui é a gente trocar algumas informações. Então, quem tiver dúvidas, já pode botar essas perguntas e as dúvidas de vocês aí no chat, que a gente vai tentando responder. A gente tem algumas dúvidas que a gente abriu uma caixinha de perguntas e muita gente já mandou perguntas para a gente, tá? E a gente vai respondendo. Uma delas o Murtaz acabou de responder agora, que é qual é o melhor tipo de visto para um brasileiro que quer ir morar nos Estados Unidos, né? Então, a gente tem o EB1A, o EB2NW, que são os que mais estão sendo usados, mas são vistos que levam de 2 a 3 anos para sair, tá? Então, assim, isso é uma coisa que não é para amanhã. Os vistos que vão gerar um green card demoram para sair, enquanto que os vistos de temporários saem mais rápido, mas não geram green card. Tipo um F1 para você ser estudante, um E2 para quem tem passaporte europeu, um passaporte de países que tem o acordo que tem o ESTA lá, né, que permite que você faça um E2. Agora, além disso, tem uma coisa que foi muito perguntada, que é quando você muda para lá, como é que fica os impostos, né? O tax situation. When people move to the US, the tax situation changes a lot, right?
Absolutely. I mean, you have to know, and there's different rules, as you're aware. You know, for students, there's different rules. For green card holders, different rules. For citizens, there's different rules. And so, you know, you need to know what the rules are, and you need to plan effectively. A lot
So
of
the key for everything is planning, right?
absolutely. If you plan your tax, you plan your financial future, and you plan your immigration at the same time, you're going to be in an advantageous position. What you don't
Gotcha.
want to do is kind of just see what happens and hope for the best, because that the amount of problems you can create for yourself with the IRS, the federal government, with the DHS or Department of Homeland Security, and then you have to also plan on the other side of what happens in Brazil, and when
Yeah.
are you no longer required to pay taxes there, and how will you divest
You
yourself?
cannot just leave and leave everything as it was. You have to do your exit.
Yeah, and again, I'm not a Brazilian tax expert, but you are. So
That's
you know,
that's my job. Just call me.
you are. So you can advise them on this, because if they cover that side and they cover this side, the odds of a problem go down exponentially. But if they don't cover it and they don't do the planning the right way, you know, they can get hit with a huge tax bill from the US that is unexpected. And you don't want to be a green card holder with a huge tax problem with the US, especially if you want to be a citizen at some point. You're going to have an issue, you know, for the rest of your life.
Is it common for the IRS to go to the ICE in order to expel someone and take their green card back if they don't pay taxes?
I mean, look, this ICE stuff that's been happening is a relatively new, you know, phenomenon in the country, but the answer is no. I mean, this is the U.S. government, so you know, one agency doesn't necessarily know what another agency is doing. But I will say this: it is the U.S. government. If you owe them money, they're coming to get their money. You know, so you know, don't get yourself in a situation where you get blindsided by an enormous like tax bill. You
I
know,
have clients. I do every month. Every month I do 2 or 3 different analysis on people that moved to the US. They have an accountant in US, which is not, even though it's a CPA, and it happens a lot with me. The guy's a CPA doing tax return for these people, and they don't do guilty, they don't do F bars because they say they didn't ask for it.
right?
So the Brazilian people is not used it to have to ask for everything for a professional. We use it to do, I want to do my IRS tax return. And then the accountant say, do you want this? Do you want that? And then the American way of working is completely different. If you don't ask specifically for a job, they will do just what you ask it for.
Yeah, I mean, and here's the thing: you cannot solicit either. So
Oh, he cannot solicit.
yeah, so that we like there's certain rules with different professions and rules of professional responsibility that will not allow certain things. Now, once you have the conversation about what your objectives and your goals are, but look, if you are looking at it, asking you kind of what your objectives are, what your background is, what your history is, and they should be able to advise you effectively based off of that. Now, can they say, hey, do you need this? Do you need this? It's not the client's job to know what they need. It is the professional's job, and that's what they're being paid for, is to know how to best represent it and protect the client. The problem I think that arises is that, you know, a lot of times you have unqualified professionals. And if you have an unqualified professional that you're asking for help, when you're entering a new system, a new country that you don't know about, you're going to create problems. I mean, we see this all the time where we have unqualified lawyers do cases that lose, and they come to us, and, you know, we spend 4 to 6 months to build the case, and then we win. And, you know, a lot of our clients will say, well, the other lawyer only took like 2 weeks to do our case. Why is this taking 4 months? Why is it taking 6 months? Because you have to do the work effectively. This is not the type of thing you want to cut corners on or do it the cheap and easy way. You want to do it the right way, and you want to make sure that you're covering all your bases. But again, that applies to my work, but it also applies exactly the same way to your work. You have to understand both sides of this equation, the Brazilian side and the American side. And if you get one of those wrong, you're going to get hit with a huge financial penalty.
Today I was I'm going to deliver that tomorrow. I was studying today with this guy I was talking about, Rafael. He's an investment professional in the US. And we were analyzing the data from one client that he advised me. He I don't know how to say that. He just sent the client to be helped by me in Brazil because he came to the US, but he has 5 companies in Brazil. And the guy who did his tax return did not send to the IRS nothing about FBAR or GILTI. Para quem não sabe, pessoal, aqui, o que eu estou falando, tax return é imposto de renda americano, e GILTI e FBAR são 2 formulários americanos que têm que ser entregues. Alguns desses formulários têm multas de $10 mil por não ser entregues. Alguns têm multas de perda de até 50% do saldo da conta, até $50 mil. Então, assim, tem que tomar muito cuidado quando você se muda para os Estados Unidos, porque a lei é completamente diferente, as regras são completamente diferentes, e essa pessoa está lá, não entregou GILTI, não entregou FBAR, que são 2 formulários obrigatórios para quem tem empresa no Brasil, e o GILTI obriga que o balanço da empresa brasileira seja reportado dentro do formulário do GILTI, mas o balanço que tem que reportar no formato US GAAP, o balanço no formato que a lei americana permite. E o Brasil tem um balanço completamente diferente, tem que transladar esse balanço para a lei americana. Então, a gente pega esse cliente americano, brasileiro, que está morando nos Estados Unidos, um brasileiro que foi morar lá, pega o balanço das empresas brasileiras e tem que transladar esses balanços para dentro do FBAR e do GILTI dentro da regra americana. Tá? So, what I was explaining to them is that I got a client that was working today with one friend that's investment analyst, and he was we are talking about that, and this guy moved to the US. He has 5 companies in Brazil, and he has to file the GILTI. It's form 8992. Okay, this form has a lot of things that you have to answer, questions. One of those questions is that you have to copy the balance sheet from the Brazilian company into that form. The problem is that the instructions say that this translation has to come in the US GAAP form, which means the Brazilian way of balance sheet does not function. You have to translate that to the American balance sheet. So there are deductions that you cannot deduct in the US. There are things that you can do and cannot do when you translate that to the US. And those American CPAs, they don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
They're not used to expats.
Yeah. And I mean, look, it's that, but there's also sometimes a language barrier.
Yes.
You'll have people coming from Brazil where, I mean, they can speak English, but like the terminology with tax is completely different than, ordering at a restaurant or going and hanging out with friends, right? I mean, like, I know from my experience, it took me years to learn how to say certain terms the correct way in Portuguese and in Spanish, because you don't use those terms day to day. And so,
but you do speak Portuguese, right? But you feel you're not comfortable speaking Portuguese exactly because of that, because you can be misinterpreted.
No, we can do another one of these in Portuguese. I'm actually very comfortable speaking Portuguese. Okay. But again, I'm just giving my experience from having gone through the learning process. And Portuguese is not an easy language by any stretch of the imagination. So, as I was learning, I had to learn this vocabulary completely differently. And like, as we work with, especially like nurses and doctors and healthcare professionals, they have to relearn the language, even if they're fluent in English on a general terminology. Great. But the physiology and, the medical terminology, it's completely different.
And when we talk about immigration and tax planning, our both professions, they have to come together. So we think about planning. You have to plan in advance in order to do that movement from Brazil to the US. And then which advice you have to people that's going to move tax-wise? How do you think they have to go through that?
Well, I think they need to talk to someone like you first. I think they need to talk to a qualified professional to understand, look, here are the risks, here's what you need to do, and here's how you can protect yourself and your family And look, there's a lot of different options. You know, I mean, again, just like with immigration, how I told you there's visas that people don't even know about. If you're with a qualified financial planner and a tax expert, there are things that you can do that can eliminate a lot of the risk by doing them. But, you know, the average person is not going to know these things.
Gotcha.
You know, and so if they talk to someone like you, they can learn what their options are and then make an informed and educated decision on what's going to be best for themselves and their family, instead of, you know, guessing and hoping it all works out.
One question we have is, if a person wants, if a Brazilian person that has only a Brazilian passport wants to move to the US, does opening a business in the US is a solution for him?
Maybe. So what you have to look at is, you know, there are entrepreneurs that come and they apply for EB1A and NIW, and there's different EB2 NIW, there's different options. But first you have to decide, am I qualified based on the way the law is written today? Look, there's a lot of highly qualified people that don't fit into the guidelines of the way the law is written. And the way you get approved is not by saying, hey, I'm a really good professional, I'm a really good entrepreneur. You have to present your case, one, to show that you've met the basic criteria, but then also show that you're helping the US by setting up your company or transferring your company to the US. What is the economic value? What is the social value? How many jobs can you create for Americans? There's a number of factors that the government looks at to see whether or not this is going to be beneficial to our country. And if it is,
okay,
each point of the law is proven, hey, yeah, those are options. But again, the best way to approach that is to send us your CV, let us do an analysis and understand who you are and what your background is and what you can bring to the table. And then from there, we can develop an effective strategy for you.
Okay, so let me explain this in Portuguese for these people.
Okay. Next one we should do in Portuguese, for sure.
Yeah. No caso de uma pessoa querer mudar para os Estados Unidos e montar uma empresa seria uma opção, o que o Murtaz disse foi, maybe, ou seja, talvez, pode ser uma opção, pode não ser. Por quê? Porque depende do seu caso. Então, ele está falando, manda para a gente aqui o seu CV, o seu currículo vitae, que ele fala uma descrição total, tá aqui no chat do YouTube, tá? O YouTube, Roberto Campos Contador, aqui no YouTube, está lá, nos comentários tem o contato do Murtaz. Quem está aqui no Instagram, é só clicar em Murtaz ali no perfil dele, tem lá o link. Entre em contato, agenda com ele uma consulta, ele tem lá uma tabela para marcar uma consulta com ele. Nessa consulta, ele vai explicar o que ele quer de você, um currículo, uma lista de documentos que você precisa mandar para ele. Com isso, ele vai analisar o seu caso e vai te dizer como é que você pode ou não pode fazer. Tá? É uma análise que ele faz. Então, é super interessante fazer isso, mandar, fazer, marcar, agendar com ele, fazer uma consulta e tentar enviar a documentação para você poder resolver isso lá. Tá? Então, esse é o primeiro passo, é o passo mais importante, é uma análise para você ver, e aí sim, dependendo da análise, você montar uma empresa pode ser uma solução, você tirar outros modelos de visto, porque olhando o teu currículo, ele vai analisar com a expertise dele, de todos, how many visa, different types of visa do you have, can a person apply?
Hundreds.
Então, centenas de vistos, ou seja, ele com a experiência dele vai olhar o teu currículo e vai falar assim, para você o melhor é esse aqui. Ele fala, how many years have you been doing this?
I've been doing this for 17 years.
17 anos.
But like I said, I mean, I've been doing corporate law and this for a long time. Especially for the entrepreneurs, those two go hand in hand. You have to understand the legal side of business in order to set up a business effectively in the U.S. for immigration purposes.
Okay. And you work not only with Brazilians, but with people all over the world.
Everywhere. I mean, my staff speaks Portuguese and Spanish. One of them can speak Italian and French as well. We work with people from the Middle East, Europe, Asia. We have clients.
You do have employees that are Brazilians, right? They speak Portuguese fluently.
Most of my employees are Brazilian that speak, but most of them speak Spanish fluently as well.
Okay. So we have, a gente tem, a maior parte dos funcionários deles são brasileiros, tá, pessoal? Eles moram no Brasil, trabalham remoto e sabem falar português, inglês e espanhol. e outras línguas, porque ele trabalha também com o leste europeu. Então, assim, não se preocupa da gente estar falando inglês, o advogado principal só fala inglês, porque o Murtaz também fala português, né, Murtaz?
Fala.
Ele fala o português também. Então, se você precisar falar português com ele, ele fala também. A gente resolveu fazer essa primeira entrevista em inglês para ficar mais fluente para ele, ficar mais tranquilo, mas depois a gente faz uma em português também para quem não entendeu nada. A gente marca uma nova aí mais para frente e faz uma outra em português também. Vamos responder mais uma pergunta aqui. Quais são as possibilidades... Acho que caiu aqui. Acho que caiu o vídeo do Instagram. Well, let's do this. I think it's ended. I don't know why. I don't know why. Well, it just ended. But we can try another time to do this one in Portuguese, right? Murtaz.